YouTube folks, feel free to skip ahead about a minute. I'm still kind of getting set up here, and I'm going to give people a chance to hop in before I get started. Hey, and I'm in the green today. I have fixed my problem from yesterday, so stream quality should be much, much, much higher than yesterday. Oh, I need to move this sideboard so it's visible. Hey, Safali, welcome. Yeah, that's much better. Alright, good morning everyone. My name's Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, and today I'm going to be playing Maverick. I've been talking with Miranda Keith recently about Maverick quite a bit, and she shared her sideboarding guide with me, and we talked about it a little bit, and I kind of batted some ideas back and forth with her, and I decided I wanted to play this deck list. So a while back, I tried Shalai in D&T, and I thought the card was really good. And I kind of suspected, though, that D&T wasn't the best fit for the card, that the card would just be, like, much, much better in Maverick. Because you have Gaia's Cradle and these mana dorks to power it out sooner, and activating its ability that lets you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature is actually relevant and feasible there. So I thought this was going to be a good home for this card. So I wanted to play with Shalai some more, and I decided to give Maverick a go. So, like, for anyone unfamiliar with Maverick, it is a deck that sort of operates on a Green Sun Zenith package. So you have Deathrite Shamans and Noble Hierarchs on 1 as mana accelerators. Ooze, Scrib Ranger, Teague, and Pride Mage on 2 as bullets for various situations. You know, Ooze beats the graveyard decks, Teague beats a lot of the combo decks, Pride Mage answers artifacts that are problematic like Umezawa's Jitte, and Scrib Ranger does things. So Scrib Ranger doesn't look impressive, it just lets you untap a creature, but that can be really disgustingly good with like Mom, Hierarch, Deathrite Shaman, and Knight. So it's not the flashiest card, but it does a lot of things, and the protection from blue is very relevant against Delver. And then to round out the package, you have your main threat of the deck, Knight of the Reliquary, which gets stupid, stupid big at 3 mana, as well as Tireless Tracker for card advantage, and Crucible of Worlds that happens to be attached to a creature. If you're familiar with Maverick, you'll notice that one thing is notably missing from this. There is not a Stoneforge Mystic package in this deck. So Stoneforge Mystic is typically a part of Maverick, playing about 2 pieces of equipment in the main deck. However, this version of Maverick is a little bit more aggressive in many ways with this Shalai rather than a Stoneforge Mystic package. So you gain an evasive flyer that protects your other threats in exchange for the sort of like tutor options of Stoneforge Mystic. And so rather than play like 4 slots in the main deck dedicated to equipment, it just runs 2 copies of Jitte, because that's usually what you want to get anyway. The sideboard's pretty sweet. A good portion of it is anti-combo stuff, because Maverick's a little soft to that in Game 1. Not completely, right? Like, because you have Thalias, and you have Teague, plus 4 more copies of Teague and Green Sun Zenith, like, you have game against combo. But you have a lot of cards that you want to sideboard out against combo, so you have to have a lot of stuff to bring in. Other than that, we have a bunch of generic removal Zealous Persecution and Toxic Deluge as sweepers, Abrupt Decay and Rex Sage as generic answers, and then one you might not be familiar with, Kaya Ghost Assassin. So Kaya Ghost Assassin is a 4-mana planeswalker that's similar to Jace in some ways, in that like you get a good amount of card advantage with it. The most common mode you use is the -2. Each opponent discards a card and you draw a card. So like you get a net change of 2 cards most of the time with that ability. There's a drain ability that's not particularly relevant, and then the top ability is what resets Kaya. So you have 0, you can exile Kaya or 1 target creature, and then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next upkeep. You lose 2 life. Sorry, your next upkeep, you lose 2 life. So what you can do is, like, -2 Kaya, -2 Kaya, 0 Kaya, Kaya can't be attacked during your opponent's turn, then, like, you continue to just -2. So 2 out of every 3 turns, this is, like, a 2-card swing, which is very, very good. The other abilities aren't the greatest, but, like, there are times when they're useful. Like, you can use Kaya to blink a blocker to get it out of the way for your turn, to crash in with a big knight, or something like that. Alright, so just to tease this now, there's been a lot of talk about 3 cards recently, Contrite Cleric, Resplendent Angel, and Brightling. At the end of this league, I'm going to talk about those 3 cards and kind of like builds of D&T moving forward, just because I've had a lot of people ask me questions about them, and I just kind of want to like go and answer them in one place. So that will happen at the end of this league. Oh, just in case I didn't say this already, this is Miranda Keith's deck list. I did not change any cards here. I basically like everything that's going on with this deck list. It has a very good mix of utility and power. I wasn't 100% sold on the Maze of Ith in the main deck. I've only played that in the sideboard before, but she seemed to be really happy with it, so I'm going to run that. This hand's very good. Well, I should say it's very good against fair decks. Because, like, I have a curve of, like, Mom into Thalia. This might mean Black-Red Reanimator. So I'm going to sandbag my Caracas. Against a fair deck like Pile, this hand is going to be really good. Against an unfair deck, we have a turn 2 Thalia, which is the best we can hope for. Morning, and thank you. Alright, so Bloodstained Mire into Bayou and Badlands. him me. This could be bad. Yeah, Bloodstained Mire Go is pretty intimidating. Alright, that Hymn to Turok was very backbreaking. So I get a choice. I can cut my opponent off of red for Culligan's Command, or cut them off of blue for cantrips. Culligan's Command isn't that good against me right now. So I'm going to target the blue. Wow, that just happened. Natural Order. At the end of this stream, after this league, I'm going to talk about that in detail. For now, I will just say that it is exciting, though. Morning, welcome. I want to play out this Horizon Canopy. I'll probably cycle it at my opponent's end of turn. Jeez, it's 5 a.m. there. That's pretty late. Early. It's alright. Time. Wibbly wobbly. Teague's not bad. So Teague is a particularly acceptable threat here, because with Mom and Caracas backup, it should basically be unkillable. I don't really want Maze of Ith or Swords to Plowshares. I think I'm going to get rid of Maze of Ith. But it's close. Maybe I'm supposed to get rid of Swords to Plowshares, because Maze of Ith is just better against, like, stupid threats like Snapcaster Mage. I don't know that that's true. Like, if we keep Toxic Deluge in mind, then, like, Maze might just be better. Sure, sure. If they have Strix, the plow's better. I agree with that. But I don't think they have a threat right now. And if they have Strix and we get into a staring contest, then that's not the end of the world for me. Gaddock Teague is how I look right now. Fatal push targeting Gaddock Teague. Sounds like it's time to bounce. I think I want to deploy Thalia, so that if I draw a land, I can cast my Green Sun Zenith. Although that's super awkward if my opponent's last card is, like, Jace, which it might be since they Fatal Pushed the Teague mid-combat. So I should probably just redeploy Teague. Hard cast Force of Will. That makes sense. No, so chat, I want to use this Zenith for something big and scary. I don't want to use this for just something that does not matter. I want to make sure that I can cast Green Sun Zenith for X equals 3 and do dirty things to my opponent. Ugh. Him to Turok is rough. Oh yeah, Echo. We are going to get a lot of clues. This tireless tracker is going to turn into a big very quickly, and just like outvalue my pile opponent. Yeah, JD. I restarted my router and updated OBS, and one of those two things just absolutely fixed my problem. Don't know which one, but one of them did. Probably just restarting the router. Ooh, that's pretty good. That is also pretty good. You would like to fatal push tireless tracker. How do I feel about that? I guess that's fine. So I can't do both Knight and Ramunap right now. Actually, I guess I could. I guess I can play Ramunap. My opponent will eat 2 of my lands in response. I'll get the 3rd, and then I can, like, fetch. Okay. I'd rather, like, the Ramunap be sort of a surprise. But I guess playing the Ramunap right here is kind of good because it's sort of like gaining a whole bunch of life. If I just play both of these, it makes me real soft to a Deluge, though. But it does put a lot of power in play. No, if my opponent wants to remove something, they have to do it prior to Ramunap resolving, otherwise I'll have priority. That's not a dumb question. So, like, just to talk about that a little bit more since I have some time. This is not anything that uses the stack, right? This is just something that is going to go and happen. So since it doesn't use the stack, it's not going to be responded. You can't respond to it. Alright, so I have Windswept Heath and Verdant. I think I want to fetch Plains. So I guess I'll get Heath. Well, I don't know exactly what this Cradle does, but I'm going places. Let's start with this. I think it's time to just start murdering my opponent's lands. I'm not going to play my own Deathrite Shaman. I'm going to hold some things back. Yeah, the opponent scoops that one up. Once they can't, they have to like just use a Deathrite Shaman to make a green mana to use the other Deathrite Shaman to gain life. That game is just out of reach. All right. So sideboarding notes say Kaya in. Deluge in, Decay in, Teague out, Jitte out to dampen the effects of Culligan's command, and Maze of Ith out. Actually, no, I talked to her about this, and I wanted to make some changes. I thought that Swords to Plowshares was pretty bad. Let me pull up my conversation with her. Dang it, Facebook Messenger. Why are you so bad? This hand has great tools. Very pleased with this hand. Just took at the list. No, took a look at the list. No choke. Sorry, I just saw that comment. The next time I have a minute, I'll talk about that. Feels like a hymn. Nope. Strix. Edict. Let's plow a hole, shall we? That is a very resilient hand. I have Thalia as a threat, so Strix isn't that scary. Jace is what I care about as this game goes long, but my opponent is a couple lands off from that. I feel like my library can keep up with their card advantage of Strix and Snapcaster Mage, so I should probably just take the card that gives them the most card advantage in the long game, which would be a Jace. So if I take the Ponder, and they just, like, draw a land and draw a second land with Strix or their next draw step, I think I would really regret that. Like, my turn gets to be Sylvan Library plus Thalia. And that feels great. I'll be attacking for 3 a turn, and I can draw a whole bunch of extra cards and filter my draws. I'm going to save this fetch land to use with Library. And I have to play Library before Thalia, because that's how cards work. Okay. So they'll either name Wasteland or Knight of the Reliquary. I'm not sure which. So what's my turn? My turn is attack for 3. Wasteland your volcanic island. I don't think I need this needle. Or sorry, I don't think I need this cradle right now. And this decay is okay, but I can just, like, draw it later. So I don't think I'm going to take damage yet. But it will let me get deeper if I do so. I'll put that back. I guess I can pay 4 life and keep one of these. Ooh, that's very bad. Dryad Arbor can go back. Cradle can go back. And I'm fine with just, like, blowing up this Strix in order to crash in for a ton of damage. We'll fetch away the bad cards on top with Library. I don't know, HC Fox. Like, when Cradle works, it is just so incredibly good. It enables some of your most broken starts, so I think it's okay to keep it in, even though it's not necessarily the greatest. I do nothing a lot. That's a great question. Let me answer that after this game. So that's one that's going to require some words. All right. Planes can go back. I'll keep Scrib Ranger in hand. So who said that? Captain QC, one of the things to keep in mind is, I will respond to that, is that since I'm running Shalai, some of the card evaluation changes. So I think with Shalai, I would like to activate my Knight of the Reliquary. Oh, my opponent just conceded. That's why I can't do anything. Yeah. So I think with Shalai in the deck, like, having the Cradle there is an absolute must, especially if you're running multiple copies. Oh, Pithing Needle. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fair. I had, like, gotten so to the point that, like, that Pithing Needle was irrelevant that I'd forgotten about it. That's on me. Okay, there was a question. All right. So I do nothing a lot. Asked a question. All right. Sure. So the choke question. I think choke is 100% a great card. It's one of my favorite reasons to play Maverick. This deck list might not need choke. Like, if I have chokes, I can board out more copies of Swords to Plowshares for, like, the Miracles and check pile matchups. But, like, that did not feel bad to me. Like, that felt like a fine matchup. I don't know that the chokes are necessary. And so by not playing the chokes, I can have a greater number of cards that are good against combo. That might be more important. So I think that's the answer for why the chokes aren't there. All right. So let me go back to this question. All right. So hey Phil, how long have you been playing? Dang it, chat. There we go. All right. How long have you been playing Legacy, and what year did you feel like you were good at Legacy or felt comfortable or confident about your abilities? So that's a really good question. I would say in my first 2 years of playing Legacy, I was learning. I probably thought I was better than I was at that time, and I didn't realize how much I still had to learn. I'd say around year 3, I started to feel good about my abilities. But looking back, like, year 3 Legacy me sucked at Magic in comparison to where I'm at now. So I'd say, like, really around my 4th year of playing Legacy is when I really started to feel good about my abilities. So, like, my time when I was in grad school, I didn't play enough Legacy to really be good. And then I moved to Roanoke, and I started traveling for events much more, and I learned a ton in that year. And then in the years that follow that, that's when I really started picking up steam and really started to understand Legacy at like a deep and intricate level. Echo, I've been playing since Scars of Mirrodin. So I started playing right when Scars was about to be released. Isn't it weird where the better you are, the worse you perceive you are, and vice versa? Yeah. Yeah, it is. So, like, early on in my Magic career, like my serious Magic career, when I started traveling for events and whatnot, I was really frustrated at my losses. And, like, now I can look back at some of those and I'm like, no, Phil, you did not playtest enough. You did not know the matchups well enough. You, like, had too many sideboard cards for some matchups, not enough for other matchups. Like, there was a lot of prep work I wasn't doing. In my first few tournaments, I was exhausted by the end just because I was not physically preparing for the tournament properly. Like, I didn't come with a water bottle. I didn't come with snacks. I didn't come with things like Tums and ibuprofen to like, hedge against, like, not getting food at the proper time or eating crappy convention hall food. And a little bit of prep work and mental preparation has gone a long way in improving me as a player, as has just like the number of games I play now in comparison to the number of games I used to play. Did you move to Roanoke for the Magic scene? No. I got a job offer in Roanoke like 2 days after I started looking for a job, and I decided to like take a look at the job so that I could visit Star City. And I was offered the job like another 2 days later, and I decided I wouldn't look very hard for another job since it had like the upside of having the Magic scene here. Do you think that's a reasonable timeline other people can look for? So Static Gripped, it really depends on what you do with your time. I would say in order to be good at playing like physical paper tournaments, you need to play big paper tournaments for a year. Like, you need to just get used to playing Magic for 12 hours. Like, that's just something you have to physically get used to. Like, the Grand Prix and Opens can be long days, you know, longer weekends when you include, like, the travel and whatnot. I think you, like, need to play Magic for a year at like, that higher level just to, like, get used to it so that, like, those events don't feel taxing anymore. But as far as, like, play skill goes, it really depends on how much you're jamming games. Like, if you are just playing 3 to 5 rounds at your weekly once a week, then it's going to take a couple years to get, like, much, much better at Legacy. But, like, if you buy into Moto and you're playing, you know, 3 leagues a week or something like that, you're going to improve so much more quickly. You're also going to play against better opponents on Moto. So, like, if I would have started out playing on Moto, I would have improved at, like, 2 or 3 times the rate that I improved at. Yeah, that tournament where I was sick and I had Dayquil, NyQuil, all sorts of stuff like that with me, like, in order to fight that off. That's a good example of tournament preparedness that newer players would not do. Oh god, I did look like Death Basic Planes. I have no idea how I don't know. I don't remember what I did. I like top 16 that event or something like that somehow. I don't know. That was a miracle. All right, chat, I'm going to refill my water bottle. I forgot to do that before the start of the stream, and then we'll go into the next round. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat, and I'll answer them in just a minute. I will answer all questions about new cards at the end of this league, though. Chat giving me crap. But yes, to just follow up on a comment someone made, the quality of your testing matters a lot. You should be testing with people who are as good as you, or preferably better than you, who can help you learn. It does not do you much good to just, like, beat up on the same couple of players every week at your local game store if you are the best player there. And that's why I'm so active in so many different online communities and chats and things of that nature, forums, like why I made Thraben University. You learn a lot by working with people who are better than you. Opponent played Grixis Delver in 2017. I'm going to keep this hand. This hand has the good old Wombo combo of Ramunap Excavator and Wasteland. I'm going to Masquerade as Elves for a turn. Yeah, and Echo, that's a big part of tournament prep, right? Like, you need to play or work with or watch people who are better than you in order to learn. I will say I was very lucky in having the scene that I did in Roanoke, because a lot of my IQ top 8s probably felt like Pro Tour top 8s. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but, like, there were a lot of, like, modern top 8s I played where it's like, all right, well, it's me and Brad and Todd and BBD and Tom Ross and then a couple randos. And then where it's like, oh, geez. Oh, geez. Like, this is gonna be fun. I enjoyed playing those sorts of top 8s more so than, like, most other things. Just because of, like, how useful they were to me as a player. Alright, opponent leading on Deathrite Shaman means the whole Ramunap plan is less likely to go ham. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to sandbag the Ramu Nap for a little while. Or maybe I don't. Maybe I play Ramu Nap and, like, force my opponent to hold their Deathrite Shaman up. So that they don't get, like, double wastelanded. That might be fine. Back when I was, like, first getting active in the forums, I learned a lot from Finn, the creator of D&T. He was still very, very active then. But that was 6 or 7 years ago at this point. I learned a lot by watching some of Michael Derkso's matches. And when I talked to Derkso, he in turn said he learned a lot by like following my content and like following my forum posts. So like we didn't talk at all back when he was on like a tear on the opens and he kept placing with D&T. We didn't talk at all, but like we were following each other's content very closely and just like ships passing in the night. We just never realized like what we were doing. Yeah, man, we're talking about online communities. Yeah, I think they're so important to, like, successful tournament preparation because you can only gather so much data. Like, even the most, like, industrious data collectors, you know, can only get data for a couple hundred matches in preparation for a big event. That's a big fish. I'm pretty tempted to just wasteland my opponent again. But I think it's time to just put the Tireless Tracker into play first. What's the skill difference between you and the current really top legacy players at the moment? Ooh, that's a good question. Let me answer that when I have a little bit more time to answer that properly. So this turn I'm going to play Shalai so that my other stuff is just safe. And then, like, once that's the case, I can deploy this Jitte, put it on Shalai, gain 4 a turn, and then race, like, True Name and Deathrite combined. I don't want to get aggressive this turn and just crash in with Tireless Tracker for 3, because I'll take 5 from Gurmag on the swing back. All right, so to answer that question about like skill difference now, I probably have the same degree of skill as most top tier Legacy players. There are some people who play a lot more games than I do, but as far as like my format knowledge goes, it's very, very high. But oh man, that's pretty good. But if you think about how many events I'm like actually playing and going to, that number's not that high, right? So, like, how many GPs do I go to a year? 1. I don't fly to the overseas ones. I haven't, like, flown to a GP ever. So, I don't get that many chances to spike big events. I'll keep answering this question after I sideboard. Alright, so I want Deluge, Zealous Persecution, and Abrupt Decays on the draw. And then on the draw, I'm supposed to board out Tracker, 3 of my 4 Thalias, and the Gaddock Teague. Let's see. She says, cut Pride Mage instead of Thalia if you know your opponent doesn't have targets you care about. I don't think my opponent has targets I care about. I'll keep another Thalia. No, I have Miranda Keith's sideboarding guide. She sent it to me so that we could go and, like, compare notes and compare thoughts about it. We chatted for like 2 hours the other night about just like Maverick sideboarding and the deck in general, which is like kind of why I'm playing this today. Oh yeah, like HC Fox, that's a really good point. Like playing on stream and having other people like go, hey, why didn't you do that? Hey, why didn't you do that? Hey, why didn't you do that? Is a good way to like either rationalize your plays and articulate your plays clearly, or alternatively, it's a good way to go like, well, I should have done that and I just fucked up. And you get really good at admitting that. Like I'm very, very open to admitting my mistakes on stream. You all have probably figured that out by now. And just to like talk about like spiking events, when I think I I either like top 16 or top 32 GP Louisville a while back, and like the difference between like I think like a top 8 and a top 32 there was just like 1 win, right? Like when the events get really big, there's just like one draw step can be a deciding factor between how well you place. Your pairings also matter a lot. Like, I got pooped on at Duels for Duels just because I got, like, a poor pairing in my first round and ended up in a weird bracket. And that's something that happens sometimes. If I started a GoFundMe for Legacy GP Travels, I'd donate. I will keep that in mind. And HC just to follow up a little bit more, if your friends will watch you play Magic and commentate on your games and tell you like what you're doing wrong and questioning your plays, that's just about as good as like getting advice from the stream. Like, I really wish I would have started having people commentate on my plays earlier on in my Magic career. Yeah, so JD, one of the best things you can do to increase your win percentage is have a play group who helps you test. And I don't mean a couple of guys that you sit down at the shop with and just like play random pickup games with. I mean a couple of guys or girls or whatever who are willing to sit down and go like, okay, what do you need help with? All right, you need to write out a sideboard guide. Let's go over that. I mean the people who say like, I'm having trouble with this game or this matchup specifically in post-board games. Can you help me play post-board games? And I mean people who will help you do the grunt work, the stuff that takes a while, the stuff that's not fun. If like good players need that stuff. So man 47, I would say, why assume? Just ask. Like, at my last tournament, Zach Cock came and watched one of my rounds. And, like, obviously can't say anything between games, but, like, I was showing him my hand and stuff, and I said, at a couple of points, I'm like, this turn is interesting. Remember this turn. Tell me what you think later. And then after the match, we talked about a whole bunch of stuff. Like, hearing other people's lines and hearing other people's rationale for doing things is so, so helpful. That's a stellar draw, honestly. Alright, 2 underground seas down, 1 to go. And Manmon, it's not something that goes quickly, right? Like, you have to find quality players to surround yourself with who are willing to actively think about games. Like, there are a lot of people who watch games and they watch games of Magic like this. And they're just, like, watching the plays and they're just seeing what happens. They're not actively thinking about what's going on. And that's big. There's a huge, huge difference there. Do I have any? I do have some black cards in. Yes, I do offer tutoring. I haven't done so anytime recently, but I would 100% do that. I think $75 for 2 hours is a little steep. My tutoring rate in the past has been $20 an hour. So my opponent has no creatures in graveyard. I'm going to go ahead and eat my mom right now to play around some weird 2-mana instant shock like Tarfire or something like that. You know, like, it's probably not in my opponent's deck or something like that, but I think there's very little downside to me eating this now. I will get rid of my Deathrat Shaman. And then if my opponent doesn't have Bolt, I can grow the Ooze out of Bolt range. Woo! Piece of candy! Basic Planes, there is a quote function on this channel, if you're that amused by it. Wild Slash. Yeah, Wild Slash did see play in a list recently. Yeah, that's fair. Maybe wanted to play Shaman before eating with Ooze there. Yeah, that's fair. That plays around days. 100% correct to play Shaman first. I kind of have the feel that my opponent didn't have a daze, just like based on all my other spells resolving, but like good habits are important. My opponent is either going to be playing lands or miracles. Either way, I have no lands here. Against either of those matchups, I do like Library. But keeping that Library on top means I can't play Green Sun or Mom this turn, I just need to play Hierarch. I'm a deck that can play around back to basics to some degree, so I should probably do so. I'm going to get, like, so butchered by the first terminus of this game. My opponent is probably going to get a 3-for-1. Bear with Guns, link me to that card. I haven't seen it. Ugh. Bear with Guns, that seems like a reasonable card. So, what am I going to do this turn? I think it's just time to cast a Green Sun. We're going to cast for 2, though. Casting for 2 means I can get Teague. And now I don't need to worry about Terminus. So I do nothing a lot. I do tutoring for Magic like I do tutoring for, like Latin. I say, what do you need? What do you need help on? And then I do that thing. Like, you are paying me for my time. I don't tell you how to test. You tell me what you think you need, and I help you do that. Like, that can be watching your plays. That can be, like, reviewing a video that you've recorded. That can be sitting down and helping you sideboard. That can, like, be helping you figure out, like, what your role in a matchup is. Like, I am a teacher. I figure out what the other person needs, and then I do that. That dino's interesting. I'm gonna have this, like, super sneaky Scrib Ranger for if my opponent tries to, like, plow my mom and then take care of something else. It'll be such a blowout. So I don't think no, I can attack with this dig. I was about to say, like, Snapcaster plus Plow would be bad, but that doesn't matter right here. Like, if they go Snapcaster, I just, like... If they block, I Pro Blue, and then I untap Mom. I think I want to hold my land. I have more lands on top of my library. I don't need to hold it. Nimble Mongoose is an okay Magic card. I don't think it's anything exciting. Like, when I played Rug Delver, I wanted to play... words. Hooting Mandrills over it because of Trample. Like, Nimble Mongoose just gets completely brickwalled by, like, a young Pyromancer. Or something of that ilk. Or a True Name Nemesis. Whereas Nimble Mongoose does not. I'm just untapping this purely to create another blocker so my opponent can't realistically kill me. Should have wastelanded my opponent. Yes, my opponent is a great player. Unquestionably. Okay, so if my opponent has Swords to Plowshares, do I just still win? So I essentially have three activations here. Can use 1 to give, like, Thalia Pro Blue, 1 to give Thalia Pro White, and then still have 1 for protection. So I think this is all fine. Right, I protect, this is Pro White. I protect, this is Pro Blue. I then swing in. If my opponent tries to Swords to Plowshares, Scrib Ranger, I just bounce and protect. Yep. Oh, I fucked that up. I needed to do Pro Blue first. Ooh, I wonder if that's going to be costly. Yeah, I figured that out about a second too late. I can Swords to Plowshares that, put him to 5. Oh no, I can still get this. I can now give Teague, yeah, I can Swords to Snapcaster, give Teague Pro White. Yeah, it's still fine. Yeah, I should have, like, wastelanded the previous turn, because, like, then my opponent would be dead now, instead of, like, me requiring 1 more turn. Well, my opponent can only cast 2 spells, right? So, like, I'm not dead. I can just chump block the Mentor, take a bunch of damage from the monks. And then just still have, like, 2 shields up. What world do I die? I die where my opponent goes, like, 1-drop spell, 1-drop spell, Force of Will. I think I just want to attack with Scrub Ranger. If I attack with all of these, my opponent could do, like, some Snapcaster blocking type things. Like, they could flash in double Snapcaster. No, I guess that doesn't matter. Yeah, I can just go in with all. I forgot my Noble Hierarch died. Ignore what I just said. HC Fox, read Gaddock. Oh, you said less than 4 CMC Wrath. Yeah, why would they? So maybe the opponent has, like, another Swords to Plowshares or something. They could go, like, Snapcaster Swords and try to survive. What happens if they do that? And Swords a Monk token, gain 2, go up to 4. So I get 3 activations. My opponent is going to get to block Teague with Snapcaster. Swords one of their own guys. Take 3, go up to 4 life. I can just give Teague Pro Blue now. No, they're gonna get a monk token. Hmm. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I'm going to hit them to 3 no matter what because of the Scrib Ranger. I can give Teague Pro Blue so that it doesn't get through, doesn't get stopped by like Snapcaster Mage. Or I can just like accept that if they block it. Then they have to block it with the Monk, block Thalia. But I think I'm fine with giving Pro Blue if they block. That gets that different colored body off the table and makes it easier to present lethal next turn. Yeah, my opponent is playing brilliantly. Alright, versus Miracles. Kaya in. Prelate in. Decay in. Surgical in. Rex Sage in. Alright, 4 Swords to Plowshares out. Ramunap out. Mazavith out. Cradle out. Scrib Ranger out. And Jete out. No, HC Fox, my opponent in no world should have conceded that match. Absolutely not. They were in that until the very last turn of the game. Like, my opponent could have drawn Council's Judgment. They could have drawn a Caracas into, like, one of the sweepers. Like, my opponent very, very much was not dead. And just, like, Swords to Plowshares, my own stuff, is pretty good. Alright, so in talking to Miranda Keith, she said that she brings in Surgical for this matchup because basically the only cards that you care about are, this is a mulligan, are Swords to Plowshares and Terminus, and sniping those from the deck is very good. I don't know that I buy that, but, like, I have the opportunity to try out her plan, so I should do so. Alright, let's see if that resolves. The answer is God no, if my opponent has any counterspells. Yay! Library is so good. Yeah, man, Wear Tear would be sweet. Wasteland I don't want. That can go back. These other cards I do want. So, I'd like my next turn to be Mom and Teague with Caracas up. I don't want to deploy Teague before I can protect it with Caracas, and I'd rather use all of my mana this turn. So I'm going to send one big boy into a Swords to Plowshares. Yeah, if I had played Teague and just held up Caracas, my opponent just would have like Swords, Plowshares, Teague, I bounce it, then play Jace on an empty board. That can go on top. And that land can go on top. Then I'll shuffle that stuff away. Rough. Yeah, I mean, please don't share right now. Thank you, I respect that a lot. If I were to guess, I would imagine that some number of Force of Wills are still in the deck. Well, actually, no. I usually play D&T. Like, against D&T, I think you have... Like, Force of Will's not a good card against D&T, but I think you have to respect the possibility of things like Gideon and Cataclysm and Vile that are just, like, really, really hard to beat if they resolve and keep in Force. I don't know about against Maverick for sure. Against Maverick, you might be able to board him out. Like, you do need to deal with, like, Gaddock, Teague, actual factual Oblivion Ring? What am I doing with my turn? Need to try to get this Jace off the board. That's going to be hard to do. I think I want to play Mom and Teague this turn. Yeah, that's bad. Oh yeah, I'm not questioning the Oblivion Ring. Like, there are times when Oblivion Ring is just better than Council's Judgment. I actually probably should block this Snapcaster Mage. I'm gonna die to my life total before I'm gonna die to Jace. Here's me hoping my opponent does not have Terminus. This is my hoping my opponent does not have Terminus face. Was there any value in getting Deathrite Shaman before with Greenstone done so he can't use Snapcaster Mage? I don't really think so. Like, the Deathrite Shaman is not a powerful enough card on this board where my opponent has a Jace and can just, like, bounce it, where it's really gonna matter. And if I try to just eat something, my opponent can snap it in response. So, I don't think that wiggle room favors me here. That shuts off the green sun that's in my hand. That's not the best for me. Blood Moon. Well, I played around back to basics, which in turn played around Blood Moon, so I guess that's good. None of these cards do anything. I'll put that on top. I'll put that on top. I'm going to shuffle my library. I'll draw a card. And then I'm probably conceding. Ricky, why Detention Sphere versus O-Ring? O-Ring is 1 white mana and 2 colorless. That's very relevant for a deck that is basic heavy. And chat, I'm going to ignore you until the end of this match, purely for the sake of speed. Alright, so this is going to be a brainstorm into Terminus, which is unfortunate. I could have, like, gotten Teague there, but I didn't want to just Teague into the first Swords to Plowshares of the game. That would have been pretty poor. There's that blood moon I played around. Yep. Alright, so they have Containment Priest and Swords to Plowshares. I want to play Tireless Tracker in a turn where I can get a clue, and Mom's super annoying if it gets active. Swords to Plowshares, okay. Wow, it is just Containment Priest aggro over here. Alright, so that is all 4 Swords to Plowshares now. Alright, Mom Shalai is the current plan. Blood Moon I literally don't care about. Well, I guess not, like, literally. I still have, like, 1 Abrupt Decay and, like, 1 Thoughtseize left in the deck, but almost literally don't care about. This would be a Savage Terminus. Fuck. Fuck. That's so good. Oh wait, they target themselves? This I'm okay with. Unless it's Terminus, then I'm a little less okay. Alright, I'm gonna draw off this clue. I have the Wombo combo. Alright, Council's Judgment's pretty good. EE for 1, also pretty good. Popping EE for 1, also pretty good. If I was playing more slowly, I would have gotten something else there. Yeah, that was an awesome match. So for whoever said you should probably keep surgical, no, clock. I don't want to waste my time on a surgical extraction. Like, my opponent cannot kill me in less than a minute. That is just, like, borderline impossible for their deck, unless they had a mentor. And if they had a mentor, that sucker already would have hit the board a while back. So I'm just essentially trying not to time out while also reasonably trying to kill my opponent. Yeah, like, there's... God, I wish I had more time to, like, talk about that match. That was, like, a masterclass in miracles from my opponent. My opponent played so well. The games were super interesting. The click themselves line got like super fucked up by my Shalai, and I'm super glad they clicked themselves because then I got to keep my Teague, which was like very important for me, just being able to deploy to the board without fear. And like Teague plus Shalai plus Mom was just absolutely disgusting. Min, if you do, please let me know. I would love to hear like more commentary about that match. Like this is a match I will probably rewatch. Because like excluding the last 5 minutes where I was just like playing very quickly, um, I think I played pretty well. I made some minor misplays, and I recognized those. Like not wasting the volcanic island that one turn in game one was super important. And there were a couple others. Yeah, like Shalai is so good. Like my opponent not being able to click me was like maybe the fundamental reason why I won that last match. If we're being completely honest. Yeah, I did not realize the click thing at the time. That's something I would have realized if I was like paying full attention to the game. But when you're like interacting with chat and talking, it's a little harder. What a game! What a game! All right, chat. I'm gonna take a minute and just kind of like mentally refresh after that one. Before we go into round three, we're doing really well. We're currently 3-0. Deck list feels great. Well, Arkin, we didn't have a clock lead for a while, right? Like we were behind on clock going into game 3, but I can F6 much more than my opponent can, or like F2 more than my opponent can. So I was able to catch up. So like just to talk about that match a little bit more. So Min, does my opponent side out all of their forces for the matchup? Just to like talk about that a little bit now. Like how does that go for the Maverick matchup? Like I know how it goes for DNT, but what's it like on the Maverick end as far as force of will goes? Oh, okay. So I'm not sure like to what extent can they just rely on like counterspell, snapcaster, counterspell to answer like the Teague and Green Sun Zenith's fatigue? I don't know. All right, sure. I'll be waiting for the response for that. I'm curious. Man, that's why I play Legacy, is matches like that right there. Like, you get paired against a high-level player, and you have, like, a super interactive, super interesting high-level game. Like, that's the stuff that keeps me playing this. Yes, Min, please advertise the Miracles Discord. That's fine. Like, Discord channels, the Source, MTG Salvation, all those things like that are super useful towards becoming a better high-level player. Like, information is power. Like, I'm sort of like a scholar by trade, right? I learn everything that I can by reading. And it is because I know so much about, like, rules interactions, deck lists, play styles, sideboarding from different decks. Like, all of that stuff contributes to me doing well in the events that I play. Miranda Keith did well at a GP recently with Maverick. I believe she top aided Seattle? I think it was Seattle. All right, sorry, chat. I was just looking at the Miracles Discord there for a minute. That was an impressive game of Magic. Yeah, Min's great. Like, there are a lot of people doing good things for the community that don't get enough praise, and Min falls on that list. Whew, queue time is real. Alright, well, never mind what I was about to do. We'll save that for later. Finally got paired. Alright, opponent played Ant in 2017. If my opponent is an Ant player, this hand is gas. Ooh, that's the brainstorm like, oh god, I need to therapy or go off right now or I lose. I've seen that brainstorm before. Alright, so we're just dead. That's okay. I really like our odds in this matchup. Alright, so I can board in Zealous Persecution for idiots, or just to, like, pump my team. Toxic Deluge for Goblin idiots as well. Oop, sorry, I'm on the wrong column. Whoop. Alright, so Ant. 4 Thoughtseize. 2 Surgical. 1 Canonist. 1 Prelate. 2 Zealous. Out. 4 Swords to Plowshares. 2 Jitte. 1 Pride Mage. 1 Maze. Then Tracker and Ramen App. Alright, so then Mom, Hierarch, Deathrite, Thalia. I don't know how good Scrib Ranger is going to be, actually. So her notes say that Scrib Ranger can help you play around Massacre, but I haven't seen Massacre in a while. I kind of want to cut Scrib Ranger for, like, some other card. I like everything else. Like, I see playing Pride Mage because it can blow up artifacts that they play out, or I can see playing, like, Tireless Tracker just as, like... Tireless Tracker's pretty slow. I don't think I like the Scrib Ranger that she keeps in. I think I'd rather have a more aggressive body of some nature. I just don't see myself wanting to cast this in the early game. I'm going to keep... Alright, that'll go on bottom. Hoping to punch a pretty big hole here. This is a good hand. So I can take the Ad Nauseam to prevent them from going off anytime soon. Or I could just, like, stick them with the Ad Nauseam and assume that I'll draw a land before they can Ad Nauseam. I kind of like just taking the LED and leaving them with all that stuff. It's really a question of how soon I hit a second land for Thalia. There is a world where I die if they, like, have a good draw step and Ad Naus after Brainstorm. I'm gonna take the Ad Naus. The rest of their hand's pretty solid. I figure I'll have, like, 1 to 2 turns to draw a land for Thalia. Ooh. Yep. Ah, opponent has used 2 pushes already. Mr. Gaddock Teague is probably here to stay for a while. I should have done this post-combat. In case my opponent has Chain of Vapor. They saved like 2 points of life. Well, Aww. That was a Braid Knight over a Braid Teague. It's interesting. I guess opponent values their lands very highly. This is an interesting hand. I'm going to think about this one for a second. I think this is bad. This is weak interaction, and like probe therapy would just wreck me, and I have no pressure, so I'm gonna ship this one. Well, how many hits do I have for a white land? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I have 14 hits and essentially 3 draws to have an amazing hand. I think 14 is good enough. We might lose this one to just, like, bricking on that land. And if so, that's okay. And I accept it. But things can get pretty dubious when you go to 5. Especially since, like, some lands, like Gaia's Cradle, aren't really good starting lands. So I accepted a hand that had 3 different hate pieces, but could only cast one of them. See if I fall on the wrong side of that here. Alright, there they go. I kept a shaky 6-card hand. Ah, it is Surgical Extraction I have, not Mind Break Trap. Come on, just pass the turn now. Just pass the turn now. Please tell me Surgical's good enough. So the 6-card hand has a Wasteland, a Canonist, a Surgical Extraction, and a Zealous Persecution. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I guess I can Surgical here and take them off of Threshold, and that might matter. But it also might not. Okay, so do I Surgical? If I Surgical, I deny 2 mana. If my opponent has an Infernal Tutor and I don't surgical, they go up to 5 mana, 6 mana, they go down to 4 mana, up to 7 mana. With 7 mana, they could go Infernal Tutor empty, and that would beat me. So if they have an Infernal Tutor and I don't surgical, I'm in trouble. So if I surgical and I only give them 3 mana, then they go 4 mana. No, they can still empty if they have Infernal Tutor. So maybe I'm not supposed to surgical. So if I surgical, I just make their empty bigger. I think I have to kind of bank on them not having Infernal and, like, requiring an Ad Naus or Past in Flames kill here. I think I let that happen. Yeah. So this will be Infernal Tutor for an Infernal Tutor, and then get empty. For Ad Naus, I think empty's just safer, right? In order for me to beat empty, I have to hit running lands of different colors. So I can surgical here, or I can wait. The thing that I'm going to want to surgical is probably Infernal Tutor, and that's a sorcery. So I could, like, surgical Infernal Tutor in response to anything. I could all... So I can let my opponent get to a really low life with Ad Naus. And then in response to their first spell, I can get Infernal Tutor. Or I can hit LED and, like, decrease the power of Infernal Tutor. Yeah, I think I want a surgical LED now. I don't want my opponent's first card they play out to be LED in case they draw Dark Petition. I'm also tempted to wasteland them right now to make them choose between black and blue, but I really need this land to win the game. Alright, so I will just die to a Tendrils at this point. My opponent has the mana to make that happen. Does this do it? So that's 3, 4, 5 mana. Infernal Tutor for Tendrils. Oh, that's so unfortunate. That was very statistically unlikely to happen there. Like, hitting double Dark Ritual like that and Infernal Tutor before drawing any cantrip or card that otherwise couldn't be cast, that's okay. I accept. I do think the opponent just messed up by not making a shit ton of goblins. Like, I've bricked on lands, and I think they just, like, beat the Zealous Persecution very, very easily. So, like, let's look at math for that. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I have 16 relevant cards in my deck, and I have to hit 2 of them in a row. So, like, I have to hit, like, a 16 out of 50, followed by a 15 out of 50. I think the Goblins is just, like, the safest route that turn. Yeah, and any blue card messes up Infernal Tutor, and then it's dead, which is why we surgical to LED. And Red Panda, thank you very much for your support. I do appreciate it. Keeps me making great legacy content like that. Yeah, monkeys can't cry. I agree. Well, I'm happy to have you as a sub now. Enjoy your Thalia emote. Yeah, I'd say the transition from playing D&T to Maverick is pretty easy. Like, Maverick and D&T are hard in different ways. Like, in Maverick, you have to manage your own mana more, and you have to make decisions involving what you want to do with your Green Sun Zenith a few turns in advance. But I don't particularly find Maverick a difficult deck to play. There are a lot of decisions, but I think a lot of the decisions in Maverick end up being pretty similar in power level. So I feel like you don't get punished for micro misplays with Maverick a lot of the time. That's my opinion, at least. I have a lot of Maverick players tell me that Maverick's way harder than D&T. But maybe that's, like, maybe I have the opinion I do because I'm more familiar with all the intricacies of D&T. My opponent probably plays Red Prison. How is this versus Red Prison? I get to fetch Forest and play Deathrite on 1. And play Thalia on 2 off of Deathrite mana. Dryad Arbor is kind of like a mulligan already. This is probably good enough. If I get turn 1 mooned, I'm in trouble. Alright, opponent not playing Red Prison. In case my opponent is Miracles, I'm just going to play around back to basics this game. I have the luxury of doing so with both like a green and a white fetch in hand. Maverick requires more choices, D&T requires better sequencing. Sorry, I'm just thinking about that comment you made. I'm trying to think if I agree with that or not. Do I have a Caracas? I do have a Caracas. Why would I play Thalia first? In case my opponent is not Sneak and Show and they're running some Daze deck. Force, pitch, Spell Pierce. Sure. Let's see, so what can I cast Green Sun for? I can go Green Sun for 1. Get another Deathrite Shaman. I'd rather just, like, wait another turn and then, like, Green Sun for Teague so my opponent can't Sneak and Show. Or can't sneak attack me. So I think I'm just attacking for 3 this turn. Or I could play Jitte, which ends up being... Let's see. Does that end up being better? I lose 1 damage this turn to gain 4 damage 2 turns from now. I guess that's better. I don't know, I still kind of think my opponent might be Sneak and Show. Like, Blue-Red Delver would have removed something by now. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana available, which means I can Green Sun for 3. No, he pitched Spell Pierce. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, X equals 1, 1 for Thalia attacks. So I just attack for 2. We'll get a black source here. I overpaid by 1. So that's for the green sun. That's for the Thalia attacks. So 1, 2. Wow, everything's just kind of working here. This is weird. Alright, so Deathrite Shaman will drain. And then I'll attack with these. I don't really need to play Mom. So I should just, like, equip this with Thalia, swing in with all but 1 Deathrite. Alright. Versus Sneak and Show. Apparently we go Thoughtseize is in, Surgical's in, Canonist in, Prelate in, Rexage in. Ooh, and Kaya in too. Yeah, I guess you can, like, Kaya a giant show and tell didn't threaten. That's pretty good. I would have missed that in boarding. Alright. Swords of Plowshares out. Jitte out. Ooh, Mazavith out. That surprises me a little bit. Excavator out. Scrib Ranger out. 1 Shalai out. I also sideboard out 1 Will to Live, apparently. That's in the notes. Notes. Basically, none of your cards do anything, so you bring in everything that has some semblance of an effect. Remember to play around Blood Moon. Your best chance in this matchup is hope your opponent dies of a sudden heart attack halfway through Game 2 after you inevitably lose Game 1. Yeah, Maze only stops Grizzlewren, not Emrakul. So, Shalai does stop Intuition, and it's just big. What would I want over Shalai, though? Like, Excavator's not good. Maze is mediocre, too. Like, it's... This is fine. Monkey Cage is what you're thinking of, HC Fox, I believe. Monkey Cage. So I'm going to fetch Bayou. I'm going to Thought Seize my opponent, hopefully get something that matters and Surgical it. I'm going to take Show and Tell. I will then surgically extract those Show and Tells. Let's make this bigger. Alright, so what's interesting in here? So there's basically one Blood Moon that I care about, and everything else is stock. One Pyroclasm, one Sudden Shock. Alright, Brainstorm. So probably an Omni and a Lotus Petal are going away. My opponent will fetch with that Tarn. They probably have Ponder left in their hand, but they're probably going to cast that. Oh no, though. So I can just, like, cast a Deathray Shaman, or I can just Thought Seize again and, like, rip apart my opponent's hand a little bit further, and then just play a land for a turn. Which I think I like. Whew! Alright. I don't know why opponent didn't just, like, Lotus Petal Brainstorm and, like, hide that sneak attack. Like, they have to have to sneak attack in order to win. I think that's a worthy trade. If this resolves, then, yeah, this can't resolve. If that resolves, I got Teague, and then my opponent has exactly one Pyroclasm to answer it. Or, sorry, one Pyroclasm and one Sudden Shock. Well, they don't have K-Return. They have a Pyroclasm and a Sudden Shock. Okay, so they can Cunning Wish for a different way to answer Teague if they left a different way in their board. Okay, so they have a K-Return. Alright, so I have two choices. I can either play Pride Mage and Mom, so that I can like stop, like hold up Caracas for the rest of the game if they play a sneak attack, and then like blow up the sneak attack. That's pretty good. Or I can just play Knight and start wastelanding my opponent into Oblivion. If I get rid of their Ancient Tomb, it'll be really hard for them to cast a sneak attack. They need to hit 2 lands. So like whatever I do has some degree of risk in this next turn, unless I hold up Caracas. So I guess in that regard, maybe I ignore my mom and I just like play Pride Mage and pass holding up Caracas so that I can't die to it. That might be correct. And just like not give my opponent the chance to have like Sneak Attack, Fatty, Lotus Petal as their exact 3 cards. Play Deathrite Shaman, then I have my opponent on a 2-turn clock. So that is what I should do. And then I'll leave up mana for a bounce and a destroy sneak attack. I have my opponent on a 2-turn clock, so I don't really need to commit to the board any more than I am now. I'm not gonna kill the Petal. That's insane. Yeah, I don't need to commit another card to the board. This leaves up Deathrite activation plus Pride Mode activation plus Caracas bounce. I'm not going to Rex Eggs that Petal. That Petal is irrelevant. Alright, so there was a 4-1 with Maverick. It was pretty close to a 5-0. Like, I needed to hit a land versus Storm, and then I probably had that one. And my opponent got a little lucky with an Ad Naus from a precarious situation. But this deck felt really good. Ah, yes, sideboard in my 1 wheel to live. Okay, so chat, I promised that we'd go and talk about some cards. Shalai was pretty good. Shalai absolutely wrecked my Miracles opponent. Alright, so I think we have 3 cards I need to mention. The Contrite Cleric, the Resplendent Angel, and Brightling. So just for a moment here, I'm going to like map out the top decks of the format. Actually, maybe Excel isn't the best thing to do it in. Can I grow this text? Yeah, I can grow this text. All right, so we got Grixis Delver, Check Pile, Red Prison, Miracles, Turbodeps, Lands, Eldrazi, Sneak and Show, Black Red Reanimator, and DNT. So these are probably our like 10 decks to beat of the moment. if I wreck Sage, though, I tap out. Tapping out means that single sneak attack activation beats me. So that's bad. Alright, so first let's talk about Brightling. Brightling is a card that I have already played with, and this card is great. So, like, can I insert a row above here? So, like, if we assign every card a value, like 0 being, like, bad, 1 being fine, 2 being actively good, Brightling's great against Delver because of the lifelink. It's great against Pile because of the ability to bounce. It's great against Red Prison because it can Shriek in versus Bridge. It's great against Miracles because it bounces. It's fine against Turbo Depths. Like, the lifelink matters because you can get above 20. It's actively good against lands because it survives Punishing Fire and is very difficult to kill. The lifelink also is not irrelevant. It's amazing against Eldrazi. It's fine against Sneak and Show. It's no worse than any other threat versus Black-Red Reanimator, but let's just call that a 0. And it's fine against D&T. So, like, Brightling stacks up very, very well against the current metagame. So, Brightling is going to go and see main deck Death and Taxes play. I have no doubt about that. Like, this card is in the future of D&T. This will be fighting with Mirran Crusader and Avenger for flex slots from here on out. Like, unquestionably, this card is great right now. The metagame might change to where it isn't as good, but this card is extremely powerful, and it is worth making deck-building considerations to make it better. Like the 24th land, more copies of Plains than not Plains. Yes, Manmon, we are now talking specifically about cards in Death and Taxes. Sorry, I didn't clarify that. So one of the things I said at the beginning of the stream was at the end of the stream I was going to talk about some of the new cards and their place in D&T. So we're transitioning away from Maverick to that now. Alright. So, like, Brightling's so good that it is worth making deck-building considerations for. So, there are some people talking about, like, dropping Batterskull and playing another sword over it. Sword of Feast and Famine in particular is super interesting, because you can go and use all of your mana for Brightling on your turn, and then untap all of your lands, and, like, use all that mana again on your opponent's turn. And so that can help you both, like, Brightling and Rishadan Port, or, like, Brightling get aggressive while still holding up mana to bounce it. There are other people just talking about, like, bringing back the tech of, like, War and Peace, because it's just, like, so innately powerful. One of the things you need to keep in mind when you're playing Brightling is that it's kind of bad against True Name Nemesis and Baleful Strix, but otherwise it's good against most of the field. Yeah, Brightling will not fit into most decks. It's a very powerful card, but you need to be very heavy white to do it. Like, Miracles might not even be white enough to do it. Like, D&T works, Blue-White Stoneblade works, Blue-White Miracles probably, Blue-White-Red Miracles, pushing it. But, like, I value Brightling very, very highly in the current metagame. That's why I'm not playing any D&T right now online, basically. It's because, like, this card changes the deck, and I need to be testing with it. Like, any other D&T builds that you're playing without Brightling are just wrong. That's how strongly I feel about that card. Alright, so then there's this Resplendent Angel, which saw printing. As a 3-mana, 3/3 flyer, that's pretty solid. So, Its ability says, at the beginning of the end step, if you gain 5 or more life this turn, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. You're probably not going to gain 5 life in a turn unless you put Batterskull on something or you have a Brightling that has lifelink. So, unless you get to 6 mana to activate this thing's ability, you're probably not pooping an angel. Morning, Red Twister. So, like, I saw this, and I wasn't excited, but Zach was pretty excited. Zach Cog. So, like, I want to give this a chance and think this through. Like, where does Resplendent Angel fall? Sorry, let's make this bigger. I think this was 16. So, is Resplendent Angel good against Delver? Well, yeah. Like, it's a 3/3, it trades with a Delver, it walls Pyromancers and tokens, and the ability will take over the game if activated. And it doesn't get removed in response. But is it worse than Brightling there? And I think the answer is yes, it is. Is this good against Check Pile? Not really. Like, this gets walled by Strix, it dies to just about every piece of removal, doesn't protect itself. Like, this is maybe like a 1.5 against Pile, because, like, if you get to 6 mana and you activate that, it's kind of insane. But I think this is just worse than Brightling again. Is this okay against Red Prison? Is this okay versus Miracles? Again, it's sort of the same sort of thing as with Pile, right? Like, maybe against Miracles there, like, we can give it a 2, because it does, like, it does hit, like, a truck. And it has evasion there, so it can't be chump blocked. So, like, maybe that's enough to give it a 2. How's this versus Turbodepths? Average. How's this versus Lands? It's kind of hard to get to 6 mana versus Lands if they're doing their thing. So this is probably just fine. Like, maybe better than Crusader, or about the same as Avenger. Less aggressive than Avenger, though, initially. How's this against Eldrazi? This is pretty good against Eldrazi. But is it worse than Brightling? Again, probably yes. How's this versus Sneak and Show? So I think, like, where Resplendent Angel ends up falling is that it's different than Brightling, but I think it's going to end up being on the wrong side of playability. Like, if Brightling didn't get printed, I might get excited about this card. But as is, I just don't think this is good enough. Yeah, and HC Fox, that's a good point. Like, when Brightling goes in for a suicide attack, it can, like, gain 5 life. That's huge. It's huge, 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 huge. And you can, like, go and gain that 5 life while on 3 mana. Yeah, I don't know, like, how frequently you can actually go and, like, activate that 6 mana ability. It is white, 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 too, which is rough. So, yes, I think this card is functionally worse than Brightling. I might test it, but I do not have high hopes for Resplendent Angel. Alright, and now we get to the Cleric. So, this creature is Tormod's Crypt on a 1 white, 1 colorless flyer. So this is a 2/1 flyer with Sacrifice, Contract Cleric, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. So how is this versus Grixis Delver? I probably give this a 2 versus Grixis Delver. because it's a 2-mana aggressive card that can attack over Pyromancer tokens. It can trade with Delver. That's pretty good. Now, are you going to use its ability to just, like, sack cards from a graveyard? No, probably not in most circumstances. But just a 2-mana card that trades with Delver is good. Like, I played Selfless Spirit as a curve filler in D&T for a couple of weeks, and I enjoyed it. Yeah, Static Grip. I've seen like 4 different names for this card. I've seen Contrite Cleric. I've seen Remorseful Reverend. I've seen Remorseful Cleric. I don't know exactly. I've only seen this copy of the card. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's get that fixed. Nope. So that should be fine now. Remorseful Cleric, okay. I do nothing a lot. You're probably thinking of Morphling. There was Morphling a long time ago, and Aetherling more recently. So, like, this Cleric is probably good against Delver. Is this good against Check Pile? Kind of. Like, it's a card that can blank Snapcaster, that is an aggressive threat on its own, but it kind of gets walled by Baleful Strix, and it's not all that big. So, like, it's maybe not actively good against Check Pile, but when this thing dies, you can nuke your opponent's graveyard. That's probably enough to, like, make it okay. How is this versus Red Prison? No real relevance there. How is this versus Miracles? Pretty average. How is this versus Turbodeath? Pretty average. How is this versus Lands? Very good. Like, this as a main deckable card is great. How is this versus Eldrazi? Ooh. Main deckable card that hates on Black-Red Reanimator? Deal. How's this in the mirror? Fine. So, this Cleric is not amazing, but I think this is good enough to see play in the main deck as a 1 or a 2 of. It's a really good thing to have in your toolbox, sort of similar to Sanctum Prelate, where, like, there are going to be some scenarios where this card just, like, wins you the game on the spot. The thing about this, though, as opposed to something like Prelate, is when this isn't good, this is still a 2-1 flyer. And that's relevant for so many reasons. Like, trading with random flying bodies, trading with small creatures, for something like Turbo Depths, like someone in the chat pointed out, like, you can block a Merit Lodge with it. Like, this is not irrelevant, and D&T is always keeping an eye on its flyer count. So, this card probably sees main deck play as a 1 of. I don't know that I want more than 1, but this is probably fine. I don't know that this is good enough to be a sideboard card, because it's kind of weak as a sideboard card in comparison to, like, Surgical or Rest in Peace. But this probably makes the main deck cut. So, assuming we don't play Respel and an Angel, D&T moving forward probably needs 2 copies of Brightling in the main deck and 1 copy of this Cleric. So, let's talk about deck lists. So, I think the 24th land is a requirement now. I don't think that's particularly optional if you're going to play Brightling. I think 2 Revokers is probably correct. And then you have to decide what to do with these remaining slots. Oh, HC5, I hadn't thought of that yet. Yeah, like, Oh, you cast Exhume, do you? I will vial this in. I'll nuke your graveyard. I'll get a thing back. Yeah, that sounds fun. So, I think these are like the 5 slots that you're going to mess with. With consideration of going down to 3 Flicker Wisps. Consideration. I don't know that I want to do that, but it's not off the table. So I think 2 of these cards are going to be Brightlings. I think 1 of these cards is going to be a Contrite Cleric. So that means that, like, the main deck is getting tighter and tighter and tighter in terms of how many real flex slots you have. So if we go, like, Brightling, Brightling, Contrite Cleric, and we keep the 4th Flicker Wisp, and we still want some Crusaders because they're really good against, like, Pile, then, like, we're out of wiggle room. Yeah, so Cannon Fairy, that's the next thing. You can also consider changing the Stoneforge Mystic package a little bit. Like, you could consider removing Batterskull for another sword. You can consider going down to, like, 3 Stoneforge Mystics and cut the Batterskull. That makes me a little uncomfortable, but, like, it's worth consideration. The deck list is going to be extremely tight. So, like, alternatively, you can go, like, minus a Batterskull, minus a Stoneforge. Those are your 2 Brightling slots. You can play 1 Contrite Cleric here, and then you have 4 slots you can mess around with. And you could, like, keep Avengers and Crusaders splits just like this. And that's not unreasonable. But, like, the thing about Brightling is it's really good with equipment. It's so good with equipment, especially Sword of Fire and Ice, to, like, help it get through and make it big, that I don't know if you want to cut the Stoneforge. So, like... Alright, let's stop talking about that for a second, and let's talk about the sideboard. Like, changing the deck the way that we're going to be changing it, like, there's consideration of playing another piece of equipment in the sideboard, and there's also a consideration of, like, changing the Graveyard Hate package. Like, right now I have 2 Surgicals, 2 Rifts. Is that what I want? Or do I want to play, like, another Contrite Cleric in the sideboard over one of the Surgicals, or both of the Surgicals? Like, how much am I willing to slow myself down versus Red-Black Reanimator? Like, I've already cut the Containment Priest from the deck list, and I've already cut Prelate as well. So, like, how does my sideboard change if I am playing those new cards? Like, do I just accept that I have a 5th piece of Graveyard Interaction and don't change anything? Do I want to slot in another piece of equipment? There are a lot of questions that I don't have answers to yet because I just need to play games and see how a changed deck list works out. Yeah, Stripo, if I cut, like, Surgical, it's not just, like, losses against Red-Black Reanimator. Like, it's loss of a piece of interaction versus Ant. It's a loss of interaction versus lands. So, I think I still play this Graveyard Hate suite. And I think I just, like, am happy that I have a piece of main deck Graveyard Hate now. 3 path is not excessive. I'm closer to playing 4 paths than 2 paths right now. Path is great against Grixis Delver. It's very important. It's just a 1-mana removal spell with no downside unless you're playing against Bob Wong. Yeah, Moxall is pretty active on the forums, so not as much in chat. So, like, those are the things that I'm currently thinking about in terms of this deck list. Unfortunately, I won't be able to start testing a lot of those cards until July, but so be it. Consideration to cut paths since Brightling makes the main board a lot better for the matchup. I mean, game 1 has always been really good for D&T. It's games 2 and games 2 and 3 that are much harder. So I don't know that I actually want to cut the paths. Haven't gotten a chance to jump a Brightling with Elspeth, but that's on my bucket list. That's an interesting point. Does playing Brightling make me want to play any walkers over Cataclysms? I don't think so. I'm really liking Cataclysm right now. But it's possible that, like, the mana intensiveness of Brightling makes your lands better than your opponent's lands as the game goes very, very, very late. So that is worth considering. Cataclysm's just been so great versus Miracles and Pile, though. Like, much better than a Planeswalker, generally speaking. But Brightling's math might change that equation. That's something that I'll consider. All right, chat. Do you have any more questions for me about like D&T or suggestions about deck lists or anything like that? So I'll probably play some more matches with Maverick at some point this afternoon. Play Punishing Dak with guest appearance from Stryfo. I mean, Punishing Dak looks fun. I would play that deck. I'm not going to say that. We'll talk about that later. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it here. I really enjoyed playing Maverick today, so I'll probably play that again a little bit later. I'm going to go eat lunch now, and then see if I have things that I need to do. If I don't have anything I need to do, I'm going to stream some more Maverick this afternoon. This was a lot of fun. I mean, you know I'm not above bribery. Alright, so for anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University. If you enjoy legacy content, please follow my channel. And if you want to support me and help me do what I'm doing as frequently as I'm doing it, please consider like subscribing or donating or doing something to support my stream. And I hope you all have a good afternoon. I'll maybe see you later today. Otherwise, I will see you again tomorrow morning.